What's up, YouTube? So, story time, right? So, this is the last time I'm gonna talk about this case. This was it Ryan Hinton or the kid who got killed? He was 18. He had a gun. The cop shot him, and because I've seen plenty of stories with white people with guns and the cops don't kill them, and but something when I was young, I was probably I was raised by my grandparents, right? Because long story, I'm gonna leave the first part out. But my grandparents took me in when I was around 12 years old, and so my grandfather, he was a great man. He came to me. I was a runaway, and because my mom, she was an independent woman. Right? These feminists is mad, right? Just total mania. My mom was fucking insane. So she wanted to go off and get married, and she didn't. And so she left me and my sister to fend for ourselves. And her new husband, he didn't want us around. So, so I wound up on the street at about maybe, and then I went from like passed around family to family, living with my aunt, living with a cousin, passed around. And then, and so I wound up with my grandparents. Long story short, I wound up with my grandparents and with my father's mother and father. And so, which were great people. You know what I'm saying? Awesome people, man. The best grandparents a kid could ever fucking have. I mean, literally. Like, the best grandparents in the fucking world. But they were just grandparents, you know what I mean? I'm not their kid. It wasn't their responsibility, right? But shit went totally left, and then, so I wound up, start running away. I was just sleeping wherever. I was sleeping, my cousins. Sometimes I sleep in one of my cousins. They would let me in. You know what I'm saying? I was probably like 12 years old. And so, I knew where like my cousins and shit lived at. So I would go to their house, and sometimes I would sleep. They would let me in after my aunt go to sleep. They would let me come in and we hang out in their room, and they'd let me go to sleep. And I would get up in the morning and leave and shit. And I'd go, get something to eat, go to another cousin's house or go to an aunt's house or something. You know what I mean? Just kind of hanging out. And so, but I was supposed to be with my grandparents, but I was just, I was young and I was running the streets, and shit was crazy. And so, my last stint on the street, when I was around 12 years old, my grandfather, I got bagged by, I tried to go back to my mom. This how horrible my mother was, right? She was living in D.C. I went back, because, kids, it's just like a wild animal, anything. Kids always gravitate to their mother, especially at that age, 11 years old, 12. You're going to gravitate to your mother, even if she's a terrible person. And so I wound up going back and looking for my mom, to go back to my mother after I was bounced around, and I wound up with my grandparents, and I was running away, and then I went back and looked for my mom. And she betrayed me, right? So I stayed. She let me stay for a little while, and then she said, "You gotta go." Her and her husband. She let me stay not that long, maybe like a few days, like literally, like I wasn't even causing no trouble. But she said, "Yeah, you can stay for a little while," and then she's like, "You gotta go." So one day she called the child services. She called the cops, and she said, "Yeah, he's supposed to be, in Maryland with his, he came here, but he's not supposed to be here." He said, so the cop came. So he was like, "That's his son, right?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "But I don't want him here. He was supposed to be staying with his, with his family somewhere else." We was in D.C., we was staying out in Maryland. She said, yeah, he's supposed to be with his family in Maryland. He's not supposed to be here. And the cop was scratching his head like, but that's his son, right? She was like, yeah, that's my son. She said, but I don't want him here. Me and my husband, we don't want him here. She like, it's like, your time's up. So she called the cops. She didn't know what to do. So she called the cops. A few days, she let me stay. And I wasn't causing no trouble at all. Because I wanted to stay, And I didn't really understand because I was only about 12 years old. So the cop was like, this is fucked up. I do remember that. I was in the hallway. And the cop himself was a black cop. And he was scratching. He was like, why could you do this to your kids? You know what I mean? That was kind of his reaction. And I remember I was like 12. And he was like, all right, come on, Shorty, you come with me. So I remember he put me in a cop car and I wound up in a group home. They never knew what the fuck that was, right? And I wound up in a group home. Now, there was a lot more going on. I'm cutting some of the story down. So I wound up in a group home with like all these runaway kids. Abandoned kids, runaway kids. And after the cop, he's like, yo, this is crazy. He's like, come on, man. And he just took me. And I think he was like trying to argue with her, like, you can't do that. You can't he's only 12, you can't just throw him out. But eventually she was like, wasn't having it, like, and he just took me. So I wound up in a group home with all these kids. And it was cool, nobody mistreated me. It was like, it might have been 20 of us. And it was run by the city or the state or whatever. And I think I was there for about maybe 3 weeks, something like that, maybe a month, couple weeks, almost a month. It was more than a couple weeks. I might have been there for like a month in the group home. And my moms came, they called her and they was like, can you bring him some clothes? Because when she put me out, I think you know what it was? I went out. And she said, oh yeah, you can go out. This how cold-blooded my mom's was. I think she said, yeah, you can go out and play. I went out and played, went to the like playground. When I came back, they wouldn't let me in. That's when the cops got me. She called the cops and all that shit happened. Yeah, she was cold-blooded. She crazy motherfucker. And so, but anyway, so I ain't had no clothes or nothing because they wouldn't let me back in the house. And so she did. They called her and said, look, can you at least, do we have any clothes there? Because he don't have any clothes. I had like the clothes I had on was it. And they was washing my shit. And so I think they washed my shit a couple of nights. Then she bought me some clothes. And she dropped the clothes off. She talked to me for like a minute, gave me the clothes. I probably was like, yo, let me come back. She was like, nah, you can't. So she dropped off the clothes and shit, and then she left. And that was it. And so then I stayed there for a while with my grandfather. I wound up back with my grandparents, right? And then I started running away again. And then I think the cops grabbed me. And they took me to, it was a local, like, what was it? Like family counseling center run by the city. And out in Baltimore, right? And so there was I don't know what you call it, like, it was like a neighborhood development center, and they had like all these different programs they ran out of there, different shit or whatever. But they had a counselor in there, and the cops took me to him. Like they grabbed me, and they was gonna take me to a group home. I don't know what the fuck I was doing, but I remember the cops grabbed me. This was so long ago, and they was about to take me to a group home. So then they said, do you live in this area? And I was like, yeah. And they was like, come on. So the cops took me to this man at the center, at the neighborhood like development center or whatever. And his name is Mr. Charles. I remember him. Good guy. Fucking cool ass dude. And he was like a counselor there. And so he he talked to me for a while. He got my story. And he said, man, I'm going to try to help you out. He said, because if you don't go with me, if you don't let me help you right now, I got to turn you back over to the police. And it's not going to be good if I turn you back over to them. He said, you can't stay on the street because you're too young. You're only 12 years old. So you can't stay on the street. We can't leave you on the streets, knowing that we left you on the streets. And so he said, listen, you got any family? Nigga, I was 2 blocks from my grandmother's house, my grandfather's house. I was like, yeah, my grandparents. And he said, well, look, we're going to call them. This is your last hope. So he called my grandparents. My grandfather, he was always home. My grandfather, he was a cool ass dude. He was always, he was retired. And so he came immediately, like that. That's how cool he was. My grandfather was no joke. Like, he loved his kids. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't no fuck nigga at all. You know what I'm saying? And so when he got the call, he came right there. He was down like 5, like, boom, Johnny on the spot. And he came in, he's like, what the fuck going on? What's up, grandson? What the fuck going on? Where you been at? You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. So he's like, so he talking to the man, whatever. And so the man, I think they left out, they came back in. I never forget this as long as I live, right? My grandfather started crying, right? He started crying. And he said to me, he said, I will never forget this, right? That's why I would die for my grandfather, right? He said, listen, Charles, he said, this your last chance. He said, if you don't come with me and stay with me, you're going to die in the streets like an animal. Hold on. So, it's tough to tell this story, man. So, but I think somebody could benefit from it. So anyway, he told me, he said, you're going to die out here in these streets. You're only 12 years old. You're not going to make it. And he started crying. Right? My grandfather was he might have been about, not much older than me. He might have probably been like 60 years old at the time. And he started crying. I never seen my grandfather cry, ever. Ever. Like, show any emotion whatsoever. And I had always been around my grandfather since I was a little boy. All my life, I was close to him. Like, he always, Christmas, shit like that, I always saw my grandparents. And he started crying. And he said, you gotta come with me and stay. You can't, he said, if you run away one more time and they get you, they're gonna commit you to the orphans program. And you gotta stay with them until you're 18 years old. He said, it's not good. It's gonna be bad. You know what I mean? These people mistreat you. So he said, this is it. We gotta do something. So he said, you're gonna come with me. You gotta agree to come with me, or you gotta stay. It's the only way we can help you. You don't got no other options. There's nowhere for you to go. So I said, all right, Pop. He said, you gotta trust me. I said, all right, I'm gonna go with y'all. I'm gonna stay with you and Grandma. And then he said, all right. So he told the man, he said, listen, I'm taking him with me. Forget about that, group home shit. Nah, he gonna stay with us. We taking him. And the rest was history. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was me and Pop, that was it. And so I stayed with my grandparents until I graduated high school. The rest of the story, right? And so around the time so fast forward, right? And so I was about 17. I think I got held back because I failed in high school. I was smart, obviously, but, like I said, my mom, she wasn't taking care of me, shit like that. So I got left back in school. So I was behind a year. By the time I got to the 12th grade, I was supposed to have been graduated the year before. So I think I was 17. And so anyway, yeah, so I was like 17 and I was in my last year of high school. And so I was hanging out, right? Like when I would come home from school, I had a job. My grandfather used to let me work part-time. Because he was like, it's good for you to start working. You need to learn how to make your own money. But sometimes I wouldn't go to work. Sometimes I would go hang out with the homies, right? And get a little work from the homies, you know what I mean? Because I can make some, make some little extra cheddar, right? And it was nice to go with my little, and I did have a job. Like I was always like a motherfucker that, like I had a job and a hustle. You know what I mean? Like I'd be working and then I'd be doing some other shit. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was young, like I don't know if I should tell all the stories, right? But I was doing shit when I was like 18 that motherfucker, like 17, 18, like probably when I was 17 and I was in high school. I don't know if I should tell this story, but let's just say like I started being very, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I was putting in work, you know what I mean? When I was like 17, like I was smart. And then I always hung around a lot of dudes that was just doing their thing. You know what I'm saying? It was right, then we was poor, so motherfuckers was trying to hustle. You know what I mean? Like people I had, like my grandfather, he dead now, so I can tell the story. He wrote numbers. He was a numbers runner. You know what I mean? So he worked, he had a good job. He worked, but he ran numbers. He was a numbers runner. And so, you know what I mean? Like, I always came from motherfuckers that had a lot of hustle. You know what I mean? And so I was working part-time and then I was running missions. You know what I mean? Like, and up and down, let's just say I was running some missions, right? With me and a couple of the homies. And so anyway, so one day, you know what I mean? I was supposed to be coming home. I stopped. You know what I mean? It was, I think I was supposed to be going to work or whatever, and then I stopped. I was hanging out, and it's a crazy story. So I never carried weapons, but then these two cats with jerry curls tried to rob me. Right? Shame. It's a shame. I don't even think motherfuckers was wearing jerry curls no more around that time. Right? It's after MC Hammer, right? Too Legit to Quit or some shit. And so these two motherfuckers tried to rob me by the carry out. They had jerry curls and shit, right? So these motherfuckers whipped the joint out. So I took the work and threw it in their face, right? And then I ran. It was bop, 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 bop. But I got away, right? By the grace of God, right? But after that, I copped some heat, right? You know what I mean? You know, it is what it is. You grow up in the hood, you know how it go, right? And then so, you know, it was heat everywhere, right? If you grew up in my hood, it was heat everywhere, literally. So I copped I think I copped like a 25 auto, right, to keep in my little pocket or some shit. And from a dude or whatever, right? Copped the little 25 automatic pistol, right? Just to keep in my pocket, keep my boot or whatever, in case the jerry curl motherfuckers came back, right? They was gonna get that work, but not that kind of work. They was gonna get that work, that 25 auto work. So, long story short, so, man, that shit was crazy because I was reckless as fuck, right? Because I ain't really know how to handle guns and shit back then. I almost shot my girlfriend. Like one night, I'm in her house and I had the gun on me, and her mom used to let me come to the house, and I'm chilling at her house after school, whatever, and it got late, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I think it might have dropped out of my pocket. So let me see that. That motherfucker went off. Boom. Luckily, nobody heard anything. Shot a hole in the wall, right? And I almost shot her ass. And so, yeah, I was, I ain't know shit about guns then. You know what I mean? And so, but I kept that motherfucker with me. I always, I stayed, you know what I mean? I was never slipping. I used to keep my strap on, right? So every day, going to school, coming home, everywhere, once I got that motherfucker. And so one day, I used to hide it, but I wasn't good at hiding it. I don't know. One day I hid my gun I just called myself hiding. I just stuck it under the bed in my grandparents' house. Like the dumbest hiding place ever, right? Like not in a box, under the bed, whatever. Just stick it under the bed. And then I went out. And so I came back and the gun was gone. And my grandmother babysitted a lot of my little cousins. Like maybe 3 or 4 of them might be in the house, running around. And when I didn't see the gun, I panicked. I was like, shit, the gun missing. Did the kids get it? Did my grandparents find it? But when I walked by my grandparents, they didn't say anything. I'm like, shit, if they would have got the gun, surely they would have said, what the fuck you doing with this gun? Right? So I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I'm scared as fuck, right? And so eventually, well, a few days went by. Mind you, they didn't say anything. My grandfather had the gun. He went in my room and found my gun. He didn't say anything, right? That's how cool he was. Coolest motherfucker on the planet. So, I gotta wrap this up because I gotta go back to work. But anyway, so, one day, it was like a few days passed and I was nervous because I said, man, what if the kids find it, one of them shoot themselves? I'm gonna be, responsible for that. So I went to my grandfather. I said, Pop, all right, listen, I gotta come clean. Some dudes robbed me, come home from school, right? So I had copped a gun from the homies. I've been carrying it. I had it underneath the bed and it disappeared. I think it could have, maybe the kids got it. I don't know. Grandma took it. I don't know what the fuck happened, but it disappeared. I don't want nobody to get hurt. So I'm gonna be honest and tell you what happened. He's like, yeah, interesting. Come with me. I think he was upstairs in the house. And I slept in the back room and I caught him in the hallway. So he said, come here for a minute. So he went in his room. He always kept this shit locked because he had rifles. He was in the army, World War II. And he had a couple rifles and guns and shit. So he always kept his room locked. So he unlocked the door, go in the room. He opened his drawer. He said, you talking about this gun? I'm standing there looking crazy. He had it locked in his top drawer. I said, yeah. So he said, yeah, you should have told me. So he said, yeah, listen. He gave it back. He said, look, I'm going to give it back to you. Boom, and gave me the gun. I'm fucking shocked. He gave me the gun. He said, listen, son, I know you're a good person. And I know you ain't going to go rob nobody and no shit like that and try to hurt nobody. He said, I know you only going to use that for self-defense. He said, but be careful because the cops will kill you if they catch you with it. They see you brandishing it or whatever, or something like that, they may just kill you. You know what I mean? These police is racist. Mind you, my grandfather had white friends and all that. He was, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? He was, but he told the truth, he wasn't lie. He's like, yo, these people are racist. He grew up under Jim Crow, you know what I mean? And he said, these cops will fucking kill you, boy. Be careful. But you're getting old now, so here. And he gave me the gun. Now, mind you, I was about the same age as that kid who got caught with that gun and the cops killed him. Mind you, I wouldn't have been running with no fucking gun in my hand, like, you know what I'm saying? But it could have happened, But that's, you know what I mean? Like, so when I see them kill this kid because they saw him with a gun, and I think back to like me and my grandfather and what happened with us. And that could have been me, right? eventually the cops planted drugs on me eventually, right? They never caught me with anything, but eventually they just planted some drugs on me. You know, right around that same time. Right? He's like, come here. The cop said, I think you doing something. I'm like, fuck you, I ain't doing nothing. Like, okay, well now you are. Put some drugs in my pocket and lock me up. Right? There's some dirty ass cops out here, man. And so my grandfather was trying to warn me, like, yo, be careful. They'll set you up, they'll kill you. You know what I'm saying? And so, and yeah, but he was just the coolest dude in the world. But I'm sure my grandfather would never imagine that the same thing happened with that boy, that, you know, I'd be running and the cops would kill me. I mean, he probably thought it was a possibility, but he knew I would be careful and not try to put myself in that position. You know what I mean? And he trusted me. You know what I mean? And he was just a cool guy, man. You know what I mean? And he knew I was basically an adult male. So he like, fuck it, you gotta learn to defend yourself. I can't be with you all the time. You know what I'm saying? Somebody try to rob you or something, I'd rather you have something to defend yourself with. We live in a rough neighborhood. All right? And you gotta learn to be a man and defend yourself. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. I mean, I told that story because I thought about the kid who got killed with the gun. And I watch all the people saying, you know, like, black people condone criminality. You know, black people, they just support criminality and criminals and all this bullshit. And I'm like, man, that could have been me. Black people don't support no criminality and criminals and all of that. You know what I mean? Like, you never grew up, you know what I'm saying? Maybe y'all didn't grow up in a bad neighborhood. You see? But then when you live in a land where they talk about the Second Amendment and gun rights and all this shit, but when it come to you, it's something different, depending on the color of your skin. So, but anyway, man, I gotta run. I just wanted to tell that story because I thought about my pops and shit, my grandfather, and how, you know, what happened to me. And I was the same age around the same age as this boy, that Hinton kid that got killed. You know what I'm saying? I see stories where, you know, you see white kids, young adults, 18, whatever, with guns, different events happen. Nobody kills them. They, hey, put the gun down, drop your gun, or whatever. You know, come out with your hands up, all that kind of shit. But when there's black people involved, right, and there's weapons involved, knife, gun, whatever, automatically it's the death penalty. So it's just something to think about. You know what I mean? Like, you realize that a lot of times it's just that, and it's the thing that black people are talking about. Like, they don't like you. And so they'll make any excuse to kill you, where if it was a white person, maybe they would give them a little more leeway, right? Give them a chance to surrender the weapon or whatever. If it was a young 18-year-old, 18-year-old white kid. But if it was a 17, 18-year-old black kid, they just gonna kill you because they looking for, like my grandfather said, they're looking for an excuse to kill you anyway. And if you give them one, they're gonna just, thanks. It was all legal, right? But I'm gonna end on this. Everything the Nazis did in Germany was legal too. Just something to think about, right? Everything the Nazis did was legal under German law. And so you gotta realize the type of people you're dealing with. That's all I got.